How's it going, everybody? This is Dominic Minchella. I am the Kansas City Chiefs co-beat writer for On SI and the host of the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast. Thank you guys so much for stopping in today. Now, today we're going to be discussing something that I believe needs to be brought up to the attention of the Chiefs Kingdom, or just really kind of airing out some feelings. So, obviously, going into this season, there was a lot of expectations thus far for the Kansas City Chiefs. Not only have they been at the top of the mountain seamlessly and seemingly since Patrick Mahomes took over the starting quarterback role in 2018, but they've also cemented a winning legacy since the turn of the decade. Head coach Andy Reid is successful. Patrick Mahomes, like I said, he is a high caliber MVP candidate all the time. And whenever he's healthy on the field, you feel like the Kansas City Chiefs really have a chance to win. But so far this season, there hasn't necessarily been a whole lot of winning done. Through 5 games, there has been 2 victories, 2 back-to-back victories of really explosive offense. 22 points against the New York Giants and 37 points against the Baltimore Ravens. However, going into the latter half of the year, it's important that we focus on the long-term goal rather than where they sit currently. Yes, they have lost 3 games, and they had a really strong chance to elevate themselves into back into the AFC West division picture. The AFC is still open. The AFC West is still open. The Los Angeles Chargers, while they sit in first place, the Denver Broncos are also right there. And if the Chiefs would have been able to defeat the Jacksonville Jaguars on Monday Night Football, they would also be back in the favor of the runnings of, like, maybe this is a team that can live and get past this negativity that is surrounding them within the media. But going into week 6, this is a crucial point of the season because the Detroit Lions are a Super Bowl caliber team. If the Kansas City Chiefs want to prove themselves as still a team to beat in the AFC, in the AFC West, and still be a threat to win another Super Bowl or get there for the 4th straight season, something that's only been done once in the history of the National Football League, there has to be a movement that has to change fairly quickly. And I don't know if it's the coaching personnel, which doesn't ever seem problematic because of the history of the success that they had. I think sometimes fans can be a little critical, or the outsider point or outsider analysts can also be critical of the coaching ability, because at the end of the day, in my opinion, players are the ones who make plays. The coaches can only do as much as they can in instructing and constructing the way that the offense and the defense approach goes, as well as special teams. But if the Kansas City Chiefs offensive powerhouses, such as Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyquan Thornton, if they aren't performing, there's not a whole lot of offensive power that the Kansas City Chiefs have to have, or that they do have, rather, because Patrick Mahomes then feels that he has to do everything himself. I know that the Chiefs are getting Rashee Rice back in week 7 against the Las Vegas Raiders in a divisional matchup, something that could be a very big game for them, especially to be a kickstart for the rest of the season. Because as I've talked about before, having Rashee Rice in this offense, similar to how Xavier Worthy was when he returned, and the kickstart that it gave, is immense. Having Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown all playing together should provide some reassurance to the Chiefs Kingdom to know that this is just going through the growing pains of the season. The season is still very long ahead. You have a grueling 9 first weeks, and if you are able to have a winning record after you face off against the Buffalo Bills in week 9, going into the bye week in week 10, your latter half of the season and the schedule becomes a little bit more doable. So I would say that when the conversation sparks up of, are the Chiefs dynasty falling apart? Is it a narrative that they should now realize? I still think no. While they might not be as much of a powerhouse as they were last season, going 15-2, or also years prior making 3 straight Super Bowls and doing so in dominant fashion, at the end of the day, so long as you get into the playoffs, whether you win the AFC West for the 10th year in a row or you get in as a wild card team, once you're in the playoffs, it is a clean slate. Right now, it is the battle to get to the playoffs. I think it crucial that they have to figure out things both offensively and defensively, because the both offense and the defense have been pinpointed for reasons for defeats this year. The offense wasn't very strong in the first few games of the season. The defense, however, against the Philadelphia Eagles in week 2, they showed up really, really well. And in a game this past week against the Jacksonville Jaguars on Monday night, on paper, this should be a Kansas City Chiefs team that would have been able to defeat the Jacksonville Jaguars. And they were on their way to do so, starting off 14-0 before the latter half and everything fell apart. The defense primarily had one of their worst games that I've seen them have in a minute, at least in this season. These are the moments that, while they are recency bias and they sit right in front of us, they are moments that these guys know that they have to be better. They know that the Jacksonville Jaguars are a different team than the Detroit Lions. Going into and game planning for week 6, it is important, pivotal, crucial, all of the strong words, that the Kansas City Chiefs make it competitive against Detroit and try and find a way to break through if they want to get there. All these analysts asking if it's time to worry about the Kansas City Chiefs narrative off their backs. Now, I wouldn't go as far and say that this week 6 matchup is a must win for Kansas City, while many might. I believe that if you are competitive against the teams that you're supposed to be competitive with, and you beat the teams that you are supposed to beat on paper and the way that things are looking for their opponents throughout the 2025 season, that's how you get into the playoffs. That's what winning is. That's the way that you can still find a way to continue this dynasty. I wouldn't go as far as saying that this dynasty is not over until the Kansas City Chiefs don't make the playoffs. While that they have some struggles this season, I think that there are still a lot of bright spots to look at. Patrick Mahomes, he was getting called washed in the first two weeks of the season because he hasn't been able to throw the football. He has shown in his recent games that he is not at all washed, and he is still a MVP caliber quarterback. While he may feel sometimes that he has to do a lot of the work, it is crucial for the other offensive counterparts to help him out. The game against Jacksonville, in my opinion, I felt it got slipped away. But I do think that going forward, and they might know this going forward, you have to string together a ton of wins if it means something to the fan base and it means something to them to get back to the playoffs. Once they make the playoffs, if they make the playoffs, when they make the playoffs, that will make everyone silent, because we know what the Kansas City Chiefs do when pressure is on them. And maybe they'll feel some pressure going up against a potential Super Bowl caliber team in the Detroit Lions in week 6 that will wake them up both offensively and defensively. But I would say after week 6, expect the offense to really take a step forward. With the return of Rashee Rice, you would have a little bit of a healthier Xavier Worthy coming off of a dislocated shoulder and a swollen ankle, as well as not having to rely on several veterans, and you can have some speed threats like Tyquan Thornton, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy in the deep passes that they have been successful at. On the defensive side of the ball, as long as you keep the games close, you have to trust the offense is going to be able to pick you up when they need you to help them out with the victory. That being said, though, ladies and gentlemen, as always, be sure you follow me over on X at Dom Minchella. I post and repost every single day. You're not going to want to miss any coverage of the Kansas City Chiefs while we lead into Week 6, as well as throughout the regular season. You should also follow us over at KC Chiefs on SI. Everything gets posted there, whether that be columns, opinions, game threads, live game threads, podcasts, analysis, you name it. Kansas City Chiefs on SI is the best coverage and your place to get the Kansas City Chiefs news. As always, folks, be kind to one another. And I will see you tomorrow.